I started doing sales. It was kind of one of those type of things that kind of worked out for everybody. I do have a background in mechanical engineering. So when I started with the company, they hired me to be a salesperson, but I soon realized that they also needed a draftsman, which is one of my passions. So it just worked out. Like I said, I've been here for 14 years, originally from Los Angeles, California. So hello to everybody. And I'm sorry if you guys are having bad weather, but we're having some pretty nice weather out here right now. It's too bad that, we're living through some difficult times, so we can't enjoy the weather as much as we would like to, but we're making the best out of it.
It is like 70 degrees here in Minnesota today, so I am loving it.
Oh, perfect.
I can't wait to get out on my rollerblades and go kayaking. I am just super excited because it seems like literally last week there was snow.
Oh, wow.
So Tony, your background is in engineering, correct?
Yes, I have a small background in mechanical engineering, yes.
So how do you incorporate that into Global Truss America?
When I first started, Katie, I assumed because when I was going to college, my background is in music. I'm a musician by trade. I was raised as a musician. I started playing music at my church. I started doing sound at my church and lighting. And I went to college. I was a music major, and I soon realized that music was more of a passion rather than a career. And I regretted not following through with my engineering because I minored in mechanical engineering, but I kind of put that aside and focused on music. But you know what? Things work out for a reason, and it worked out for me. But when I got to Global Truss, I always assumed that trussing was the type of thing that DJs were the only ones that were using, or was just a big structure that you would see out at a big festival or at a concert. I didn't realize really how much engineering went into designing a structure, all the safety factors that are involved. So when I got here and I started designing structures and I started quoting systems, and I started kind of realizing that sometimes the client's wants versus what's realistic, were total opposites end of the spectrum. That's when I was able to kind of step in and provide advice or provide the insight necessary in order to build and design a structure that would be safe in a public environment.
So what's the coolest structure that comes to mind that you've ever designed?
Well, we worked on a structure a few years ago. There was another gentleman that worked on it as well. And it was a collaboration between Global Truss. It was also a collaboration between a design. It was a design company. They were kind of an artistic design company. And there was another company by the name of I think SGPS. Yes, SGPS. We all worked together. We designed this big origami crane, bird-looking thing for Coachella. And this structure was roughly about 130 feet long by about 50 to 60 feet wide. And it was roughly about 30 feet high. And so they built it out of truss, they covered it with spandex, they lit it up, and it was a really cool project. You can actually look it up online. If you just type in Coachella origami crane, you'll be able to find it.
Oh, that's really cool. How long did it take you to design something like that?
Well, like I said, it was a collaboration between 3 companies, and we worked on it for approximately 3 months.
Okay, very cool. So my next question for you, Tony, is you say you have a background in music. Is that right?
That is correct.
So have you always wanted to be in the entertainment industry, working with different musicians, different DJs, and that sort of stuff?
So originally I thought I was going to be a musician. That's really what I thought I was going to do for a living. And then I kind of transitioned from music. And obviously music is still my passion, but I transitioned from music into audio engineering. And that's kind of where I really found my niche right before I stepped into Global Truss. So yeah, I always knew that I wanted to do something with music. I thought it was going to be directly working with music, either producing, playing music. But being on this side of the business, I'm still involved in the entertainment industry. It's not only music, but I get to kind of step into different areas of the entertainment industry: television, live production, concerts. So I'm still involved. Yeah.
I love it. So for those of you who are watching, if you have questions, write them in the comments. I am monitoring them as we speak. But my next question for you, Tony, is what can people who own truss right now be doing to keep it in good condition, since it's not being brought out every weekend, or even if it is being brought out every weekend? What are some care tips that you have?
Sure. So one of the biggest things that will affect the finish of the trussing are the elements, whether it's rain, cold weather. So one of the things that I would recommend is if you have trussing and you're accustomed to storing it outside, put it inside. Find a storage facility, find a storage unit, put it in your garage, put a tarp over it if you're not covering it with anything, just to keep the elements from affecting the finish on the trussing. Another thing that people and clients and users can do is check the pins. If you're starting to see, excuse me,
No
sorry,
worries.
sorry about that. So if you're starting to notice that some of your pins are starting to corrode, it's time to recycle them and replace them with new pins if you see any rust, any deformation. Same thing goes with the couplers. I think I have a coupler here somewhere. Okay, I had a coupler here somewhere. I was going to show you guys what the coupler looks like. But it's that piece of aluminum. Some people call them grenades because they kind of look like grenades. They go in between the trussing to connect them together. If you're starting to see rust, corrosion, deformation, cracks, it's time to replace them. As far as base plates are concerned, check the half couplers on the base plates. If the bolts that hold the half couplers on your base plates are loose, go ahead and just tighten them up. A little thread lock wouldn't hurt anybody. It's not going to hurt the coupler. It would actually keep it in place so that when you go on a show and you're trying to put a piece of truss on there, it doesn't rotate and you're putting the pin on the opposite end. And for those of you that have had the pleasure of trying to put in a pin from the opposite end, you'll realize that.
Yeah. One time, and I will never do it again.
You'll quickly realize that it's not fun trying to remove that pin. So those are a few things that you can do. Something else that can also be done is if you have existing inventory that you've been working with for more than a year, check the welds. They check the welds for any cracks. Check the welds. Check the trusses, the actual cords of the trusses for any dents, any perforations in the actual cords. Your cross bracing also, if any of them are missing, it's time to put that truss out of commission. So those are simple things. Also, the ends of the trussing, if you see any cracks in the welds, and unfortunately, sometimes some of the cracks are not visible to the naked eye, but if there are cracks that are visible, it's time to take that truss out of commission.
So one question that I get all of the time from my customers is, what is the best way to clean your trussing? Because it does get that scuff, the dirt and scuff on it. So what's the best way to clean it?
The best way to clean it would be aluminum polish. So any aluminum polish out there for like rims, you can use that. Just keep in mind, and I will tell you and I'll be upfront and tell you right now that it is not fun. You're going to spend a lot of time cleaning the truss. Your hands are going to get nice and black. But it will bring back a finish. You can even polish it to the point where the truss is shiny, almost like chrome, like a chrome type of finish. Over time, it will the finish on the trussing will go back to its normal state, which is kind of like that brush kind of matte finish. But just a standard aluminum finish. I had heard from one of our clients in Europe that they use powder soap, detergent, clothes detergent. And they'll take some water, and then they'll take a bristle pad or some sort of a pad, and they rub the truss. And then what that does is it'll remove the scuff, it'll remove some of the dirt, and it won't affect the finish.
So it looks like Craig here asked, do you have any good ideas on transporting base plates? Are you talking steel or aluminum, Craig? There are cases for them. I know that, like road cases, but what if you were how do you guys transport your base plates?
Well, aside from working here at Global, I do some production, and I've worked with several companies. And to be quite honest with you, there are companies out there. We're not one of them that do make rolling carts for bases. The problem is that when you load up a cart with 2 to 3 bases that weigh up to 90 pounds, you're talking about 400 pounds of steel. So the wheels on the car would have to be pretty robust in order to be able to withstand the weight. Most of the companies that I work with, usually they'll take the base plates and they'll throw them on the back of a truck, right? It's not the most efficient way of doing it. Or a lot of them will use utility trunks. I've worked with a couple companies that have made their own trunks out of wood, not flight cases, because flight cases, they look great, they look pretty. Unfortunately, the wood on the flight case is sometimes maybe a quarter of an inch, and I'm being generous by saying that, maybe an eighth of an inch. So over time, those bases will destroy those cases. So my recommendation is a wooden trunk would be great, made out of 1/2-inch plywood. It would have to be extremely reinforced, but in my experience, that seems to be the best way to be able to transport them. I actually own quite a few bases, and I've had this old trunk that I've been using for a while, and it's served its purpose for years. It hasn't fallen apart yet, but I know eventually it's going to have to be replaced.
So I know. Okay, so I know the cases, the rolling cases, have you storing them vertically,
right,
up and down?
Yes.
Do you recommend storing them that way, or do you recommend storing them flat?
And it's a good question, and I'm glad you actually brought up that point. So one of the issues that can affect the base plate is standing them up vertically. That will actually cause the base plate to deform over time. So what we try to do and we recommend that people store their base plates flat. When you're dealing with the larger bases, like our 36 by 36 inch steel base plate, which is a backbreaker, if that one is that's one of the actually the most common bases that usually gets deformed when people stand them up vertically. So my recommendation is when you store them, try to store them flat so that they don't lose their form.
It looks like Craig here says, if you take another pin, when you put your pins in backwards, you take another pin and you tap it with the mallet, it gets it right out.
That's a good tip, Craig. I like that. Yes, yeah. That's kind of an industry tip. Yeah, kind of everybody does it. A lot of people don't know, but I'm glad you brought that up. If you ever come across a pin that is stuck, yes, go ahead and take that pin and go ahead and tap the opposite side, and that'll go ahead and assist in removing the pin. Now, if you actually, for those of you that don't know, our pins are tapered. So the couplers are also tapered as well. So if you take the pin and you put it in on the opposite side, that might be a problem, and even using the pin to tap it from the opposite side might not work, but it's worth a try.
Nate is asking if there are going to be any adapters so that truss can be bolted instead of pinned.
Well, Nate, I have some good news for you. We actually released a line of bolt together truss back at LDI last year, and at NAMM we finally released it. We had it in inventory, so we debuted it at LDI. We released it at NAMM. So if you go to our website, DT-GP series, that is our series of bolt together trussing.
I learned something new today too. And then Paul looking at getting totems and possibly using them for live stage truss. And then Nate says he saw and now make a base plate so I can retrofit it to mine. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, well, without getting too deep into the engineering part of the trussing, we've talked about it. We've actually have looked into it. And while trussing across the board looks the same, but the way that conical truss or Euro style trussing with the coupler pin versus bolt together, the way that the loads are transferred creates a few issues. And that's the reason why we haven't been able to release a base plate. There's just way too much liability in doing so. So for that reason, Nate, I'm sorry, but we won't be coming out with a base plate anytime soon. But if we do, we'll let you know. You'll be the first one to know.
Nick wants to know if you guys make 1.5 inch tube trusses.
Nick, unfortunately, we do not. 1.5 inch in the pro market is not really common. In the trade show industry, the 1.5 inch is very common for display type of trussing. But when you're talking about in the small to mid-sized to pro level production industry, 2 inches has become the standard.
So Tony, my next question for you is, since you're in the industry, and you work kind of on all facets with production and mobile sound, what is maybe the best advice you've gotten in the industry? It can be personal, professional, it can be about trust, just best advice you can think of.
The best advice that from a music standpoint, I had a music teacher that was very demanding. And I remember him telling me, if you're going to make a mistake, make it loud so that it can be corrected. Now, when it comes to trusses, don't make mistakes. If you have any questions, if you're unsure about something, if your gut you have that uneasiness, do not do it. Okay. So my best advice when it comes to trusting is ask questions. If there are any doubts, don't do it. We have to keep in mind that when we're working production, we're not just trying to impress people and entertain people, but we also have to look out for their well-being and their safety. We want everybody to go home to their families. Unfortunately, in our industry, over the last few years, we've seen some pretty catastrophic accidents that have occurred and have taken people's lives. And it happened because there were people that decided to take some shortcuts. Shortcuts are not good. Shortcuts, when it comes to trussing, it comes to rigging, are not good. I've seen fixtures that have fallen on people's heads, had nothing to do with the trussing, just somebody didn't tighten up a clamp tight enough, and it started to move, and the nut got loose, and it fell. So those things are never good. Yeah, those things are never good. So my best advice to you is ask questions. If you're unsure about something, ask questions. As a matter of fact, if you're building a structure, if you're doing an event and you have any questions, please reach out to us. You can email support@Global Truss. That email address comes directly to me, and I'd be more than happy to assist you or guide you to the best of my abilities. And if we have to, then we'll recommend you to an engineering firm that can provide the information that you need.
When I have questions, I reach out to them. If I have if you guys email me and I can't answer your question on how to build a structure, I reach out to them and they get back to me really, really quickly. So
and I'm sorry, can I say one more thing? We are the experts to some extent, and the reality is that if we don't have the answers, we'll get them for you. And if we can't provide the answers, we'll find the people that can.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So my next question, there are a couple fun ones that I'm going to throw in here. Tony, if you could have a theme song every time you walk into a room, what song would that be?
Oh, man. There's that song from the Black Eyed Peas, "Today's Gonna Be a Good Day." I'm bad with lyrics and I'm bad with titles. I'm really good with music and chords and reading charts, but when it comes to lyrics, no. But there's that song, "I Got a Feeling That Today's Gonna Be a Good Day." I try to start off every day with a positive attitude. When I get into the office, I walk the warehouse and I say, "Good morning, everybody." I just feel that, as bad as things can be sometimes, it could always be worse. And some people are going through worse things than we are. So, so every day I just wake up with the attitude that today's going to be a good day.
And I've actually toured your warehouse a couple times, and it is massive.
Yes.
It is so big, and it goes all the way out. How tall is your warehouse? It's really big.
Yeah, I think we have about 45-foot ceilings, maybe taller.
Okay.
Yeah, but we have 60,000 square feet. We stock a lot of trussing. For those of you that are interested in knowing how much we stock, like the 10-foot pieces or 3-meter pieces, we keep about 1,200 pieces in stock at any given point in time. That's a lot of truss.
I got a feeling. I got a feeling.
There you go. Thank you, Nick.
Perfect. So, guys, any more questions? We have a few more minutes left here. Tony, I do end my webcast. Paul says, what is the easiest way or best way to raise a 20-plus foot truss?
The best and the safest way would be with a lift. So something along the lines of a Genie lift, or something along the lines of a Sumner lift, a materials lift. For larger structures, for example, when you go to a concert, right? If you're seeing some of the larger roof systems, they're actually using cranes. Okay, so now if you're using a ground support system, Nate said change. If you're using a ground support system, it really depends on the system, right? If it's a standalone system with fixed uprights, a lift like a Genie, a Sumner, a material type of lift. If you're using ground support, then yes, manual chain hoist, or my personal preference, electric hoist. Yeah.
How much does a 20-foot truss weigh about?
Roughly about 100 pounds. It's 42 pounds without the couplers and the connectors. So if you're doing a single span of 20 feet, you're looking at roughly about 90 to 100 pounds.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, guys? Write them in the comments. I am going to preface my final question for you. My son, who is 9, he will be 10 on Saturday. Crazy. I can't believe he's 10 already.
Awesome.
He gets to ask the final question. So we are going back to week 1 when I first started this webcast and asking the very same question because it was a lot of fun and people seem to really like it. So the question is, who would win a fight, a robot or a dinosaur?
Oh, wow. Well, my 10-year-old would say a robot. My 7-year-old would say a dinosaur. I'm gonna have to throw myself into the equation. I would say that Dad would win the fight because all dads are superheroes, right? So So all dads are superheroes. So I'm going to say that if the fight broke out, I'd have to step in and I'd win the fight.
The mediator, no.
Exactly.
He also says, is there any thoughts to create an adapter for the Goliath stand so we can fly speakers?
We are working on something for our ST-180. We've explored some options with the Goliath stand, but because of the material that is used to construct the Goliath stand, it's all aluminum. There are some issues with some potential weakness in the design if it was being used as a line array lift. So with our ST-180 that is made out of steel, we are looking at a couple options. I've been working on it for some time. I'm trying to just find the perfect balance between weight and a counterweight. So hopefully in the next couple months we'll be able to put something out into the market that'll benefit everybody.
Perfect. So do you have any final thoughts, Tony?
Final thoughts. I want to say thank you. First of all, thank you, Katie, and to NLFX. We really value our partnership with all of our dealers, and we don't call them dealers. In the office, we refer to all of our dealers as partners. So we really appreciate everything that you guys do for us as a partner. And last and foremost, I really want to thank all of our clients who we call the end users. And it's not a derogatory term as an end user. You're just the final user. Without you, NLFX wouldn't be in business. We wouldn't be in business. So we thank you for your business. We appreciate your business. We appreciate your faithfulness to the brand. We know that you have many options, and we appreciate that Global Truss has become your primary option for your trussing needs. And then I'll say this again, if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you have any doubts regarding a structure, please email us. Email Katie at NLFX. If she doesn't have the answers, she'll reach out to me. And if I don't have the answers, then I'll reach out to somebody that does. But we thank you all for your time and your patience, and we look forward to a successful future. We know these are hard times. We're all shut down. There's not a lot going on, but we know that we will recover, and we know that things will get back to normal. So thank you, everybody.
That was very well said. I don't think I can say anything better than that. So I'm going to end with, make sure you go ahead over to Instagram, follow me at NLFX Katie right here. Go to YouTube at NLFX Pro, and tune in tomorrow at what Global Truss is holding down or up, Nick. You interrupted me. No, I'm kidding. Make sure, where was I? Now I have to start all over, Nick. Thank you. Tune in tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central. We will see you then.
Awesome. Bye, everybody.